I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
future of this great country. From sea to shining sea.
Hi everyone, and happy Veterans Day. My name's Mr. Waselk, and I'm here to give you a little bit of history behind Veterans Day. On this day, 102 years ago, an armistice or ceasefire ended the bloody and brutal conflict known as World War I. This was at 11 a.m., November 11th, 1918, also known as the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. And on its first anniversary in 1919, President Woodrow Wilson proclaimed it a national holiday, calling it Armistice Day. It wasn't until 1954, under President Dwight D. Eisenhower, the name was changed to Veterans Day to celebrate veterans from all wars. So, thank you to those who have served, and thank you to those who are currently serving. I hope you all have an amazing Veterans Day.
Hello, I am retired U.S. Air Force Master Sergeant Vincent Larsen. Over time and generations, men and women have served in the military for different reasons. I think they all have the same goal, to protect our lands and our freedoms. Some paid for our freedoms with their lives. Some have done their one enlistment and left the service. Some have made it their career. Military careers, they can vary greatly in duration and vocation. I would like to maybe provide some insight into why and how they served by telling you my story. Like in the civilian world, there's basically any job a person may choose to do. There are plumbers, electricians, masons and carpenters. There are doctors, lawyers, accountants, hotel and restaurant workers, and managers. There are vehicle maintenance people, airplane mechanics, small engine mechanics, and so many, many more. And there are the specialty careers in the military. These are for soldiers who definitely want to take the fight to the enemy. Your infantry troops, your special operations teams, your fighter pilots are great examples of these. Most of you know me and probably have my entire life. Where I've been and what I've done in my career may be more of a mystery to you. I knew early on that I wanted to go into the military. A few of my older siblings had enlisted, and by the time I was 16, I was sure I would too. This is where what I want to do became the issue. My dad and my grandfather were both jacks of all trades. Dad taught me plumbing and electrical work. Grandfather taught me small engine mechanics and how to fix things, like June Wall's toaster. They were too expensive to just throw away back then. This created the fix-it bug in me. I liked to know how something worked and what it was going to take to fix it, get it working again. Electronics is where I decided I wanted to go. When the recruiters started coming around my junior year of high school, I was very picky in what I was willing to go into. And of course, they try to sell you on higher need career fields versus the ones that take very few recruits. I held out for a brand new electronic repair MOS. On May 15th, 1982, I signed up for 35 Charlie, automatic test equipment repair. The job was to test malfunctioning electronic components from a variety of Army equipment and aircraft, determine the faulty component, fix it, and get it back into service. I left for basic training in September of 1982 to Fort Dix, New Jersey. After 8 weeks there, I moved on to Fort Gordon, Georgia for my specialty training. The first 4 months is electronic theory, learning what resistors, transistors, capacitors do, and how they work together to create circuits and control everything from fuel systems in armored vehicles to the optical weapons systems in an Apache helicopter. The next 4 weeks was learning to solder. And if you've done soldering, you may think, why 4 weeks? It's not that tough. Remember the weapon systems I mentioned? They build those things as tiny as they can to keep the helicopter as light as possible and leave more room for other systems. We learned to solder under a microscope, and we had to show we could do it to NASA standards. That was to ensure reliability under harsh operating conditions. The final 4 weeks of my initial training was familiarization with the equipment we would work on in the field. As I mentioned earlier, this was a brand new program. By the time I finished training, they only had 3 units in service Army-wide. The class before mine that was used to train and qualify the instructors were already filling and working about those locations. Therefore, I had nowhere to go to work. I spent the next 2 years of active duty working in a hobby wood shop as an instructor and safety monitor, and the last 6 months as a mechanic at the go-kart track. I learned a lesson that you may not always end up where you originally planned in the military. By the time my enlistment was up in September of 1985, I hadn't actually worked in my career field. My desire to remain in the Army wasn't very strong. My wife and I were married, and our son Michael had been born, so we decided it was time to go back home. 6 months later, my brother Pearl convinced me to get back into the military and join the North Dakota Air National Guard, which I did in April of 1986. My first 3 years were spent in the traditional guardsman role, commonly known as a weekend warrior, as an electrician in the civil engineering section of the 119th Happy Hooligans. During that time, I also attended Moorhead Vo-Tech and graduated from their electronic technician program. In the fall of 1989, I was hired as a full-time technician in the PML shop at the Air National Guard. PML is Precision Measurement Equipment Laboratory. Our job is to repair and calibrate all of the test equipment used to work on the F-16 fighter plane. I was finally working electronics, doing what I wanted to do. In 1995, my NCOIC in PML was promoted and hired into the communications section as branch chief. A few months later, he approached me about leaving PML, and moving over to COM to work in IT. He said that he had an open position and would like me to come over and help get things running. Desktop computers were just beginning to happen and end up on each and every desk at the Guard. I figured it was good to be there in the beginning. Besides, the F-16s would be gone in another year or two to be replaced by our drones, and I'd be looking for a different position anyway. Now, the COM position didn't just pertain to computers. In the last 25 years, I installed underground conduit for COM wires. I have repaired TVs and VCRs before they were throwaway. The base cable TV system was run out of our shop. The base intrusion alarms and camera systems also run out of COM. We manage the base public address system. I have deployed to Germany twice for 2 weeks at a time as electrician with the Civil Engineering Squadron. We went to Volk Field in Wisconsin for 2 weeks of field exercises, war games, and the same thing to Savannah, Georgia a few years later. My final deployment happened in 2017. Now, it's not that I don't feel like we contribute working out of Fargo. In fact, we have 2 very important missions on our base that affect the war effort in the Middle East. But I wanted to say I had helped. I wanted to be directly involved, and I wanted to be on the ground. I was assigned as a network management NCOIC at a base in Southwest Asia near the Persian Gulf. My job was to make sure the 15 guys who worked for me could and did do their jobs. You do not run a war without communications. Computers run on networks. Radar, satellite, and radio systems all run on networks. Literally everything is network-based. Our personnel worked 12-hour days, 7 days a week. and were on call the other 12 hours because the missions there were 24 hours a day. 2 people were assigned every day that would respond to trouble calls after hours, and if needed, the rest of us could be called in. We did have some free time. I traveled to Dubai and went up in the tallest building in the world. I also spent time on the beach in the Persian Gulf, where the water is warmer than a bath. Every career field in the military claims they are the most important. Up to 300 variations of jobs throughout the military. Ask them, how many of you can do your job without comm? That was just my plug for the comm guys. My career came to an end in 2019 after 37.5 years, and I'm glad to say it provided me with the most challenging and rewarding experiences. Thank you all for listening, and hopefully seeing a difference not just in the jobs we do, but also in the people who serve.